The sky above Seoul turned black at noon. Ji-won Kim stood on the roof of the Defense Command building and watched massive ships block out the sun. They were bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Ships that could swallow cities whole. Ji-won was a commander in the Terran Coalition Defense Force. She had fought in wars between nations. She had seen death, but nothing prepared her for this moment. The moment when humanity learned it was not alone in the universe. The moment when strangers from the stars came not in peace but in war. Her radio crackled. Reports flooded in from every continent. The ships appeared everywhere at once. Over New York, over London, over Tokyo, over Mumbai. Hundreds of massive warships hanging in the sky like metal gods. Then the message came. It played on every screen, every radio, every device on Earth. The voice spoke in perfect English, perfect Mandarin, perfect Korean, perfect every human language. We are the Varix Empire. You will surrender in 72 hours. Resist and you will be destroyed. This is your only warning. The message ended. Ji-won felt her hands shake. Then she felt anger replace fear. She ran down the stairs to the command center. Screens showed the alien ships. Military leaders argued. Some wanted to surrender. Some wanted to fight. Some just stared in shock. "Commander Kim, what do we do?" a young officer asked. Ji-won looked at the screens. She thought about her daughter. She thought about every human who ever lived. Then she spoke. "We fight. Get me every available unit. Wake up, everyone. We have 72 hours to prepare for war." Across the planet, other people made the same choice. Sora Han was a pilot. She flew experimental fighters that could reach the edge of space. When the alien message played, she was visiting her parents. She kissed them goodbye and ran to her base. She knew she might never see them again. Minho Park was a scientist. He worked on weapons that existed only in theory. Lasers that could cut through any material. Quantum bombs that could destroy matter itself. His bosses always said his ideas were too dangerous to build. Now they told him to build everything. Cost did not matter. Time did not matter. Only survival mattered. The 72 hours passed like minutes. Earth prepared. Soldiers moved into position. Civilians evacuated cities. Children were sent to underground shelters. Everyone knew it would not be enough. The alien ships were too big, too advanced, too powerful, but humans did not surrender. When the deadline passed, the aliens attacked. They started with the moon, a small mining colony where 3,000 people worked. The alien ships fired. Blue light filled space. When the light faded, the colony was gone. Just dust and rocks floating in the void. Ji-won watched the satellite footage. 3,000 people, dead in seconds. She felt sick. Then she felt rage. Pure cold rage. She opened a communication channel. Every human military unit could hear her. Every ship. Every soldier. "This is Commander Ji-won Kim. The enemy thinks we will break. They think we will beg. They are wrong. We are humans. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived each other. We will survive them. All units engage the enemy. Earth's weapons fired. Missiles streaked into space. Railguns on satellites opened up. Fighter squadrons launched from carriers. The battle for Earth began. The human weapons hit the alien ships. Most bounced off shields that shimmered like oil on water, but some got through. Small explosions marked hits. The aliens were not invincible. The aliens fired back. Their weapons were terrible. Beams of energy that melted steel. Missiles that could track targets for hours. Bombs that created miniature suns. Cities burned. Millions died in the first day. But humans kept fighting. Sora Han flew her fighter into a cloud of alien drones. Her missiles took down 6 before she had to retreat. Her wingman died. She cried. Then she rearmed and flew back into the fight. Minho Park worked without sleeping. His quantum disruptor worked in theory. Now he had to make it work in reality. He watched his assistants build the prototype. 30 hours after the war started, they tested it on a captured alien drone. The disruptor fired. The drone's shields flickered and died. The drone itself shattered. "It works," Minho whispered. Then he shouted, "It works! Get this design to every factory on Earth, now!" The aliens noticed humans were not dying fast enough. Their commander, Admiral Kalroth, studied the battle reports with confusion. These primitives should have collapsed by now. They had no shields. Their weapons were weak. Their ships were slow, yet they kept fighting. They used tactics he had never seen. They hid in cities and ambushed his ground troops. They sacrificed damaged ships by ramming them into his vessels. They showed no fear. Kalroth had conquered 47 worlds. Every species surrendered when they saw his fleet. These humans were different. They were crazy or brave. He could not decide which. 3 weeks into the war, everything changed. Sorahan led a strike mission against an alien carrier. Her squadron was small. Just 12 fighters against a ship that carried 1,000 alien soldiers. The mission was suicide. Everyone knew it. They flew low through the clouds. They used mountains for cover. When they reached the carrier, they attacked from 6 directions at once. The new quantum disruptors hit the shields. The shields collapsed. Human missiles struck armor. The carrier began to burn. Sora's fighter was hit. Her controls failed. She ejected just before her ship exploded. She parachuted down and watched the carrier fall from the sky. It crashed into the ocean. The explosion created a wave that could be seen from space. 8 of her 12 pilots died. But they destroyed an alien capital ship, the first major alien loss of the war. When Admiral Kalroth heard the news, he threw his command staff across the room. Impossible. These animals could not fight like this. They should not have the technology. They should not have the courage. He sent a message back to the Varric's homeworld. He needed reinforcements. He had never asked for reinforcements before. Jiwan stood in the ruins of London. Half the city was destroyed. Fires burned everywhere. Bodies lay in the streets. But humans were still alive. Still fighting. She recorded a message and broadcast it on all frequencies. She wanted the aliens to hear it. She wanted the whole universe to hear it. You came to our home. You killed our people. You thought we would beg for mercy. You were wrong. We are humans. We do not surrender. We do not break. Come at us with your fleets. Come at us with your weapons. We will fight you in our cities. We will fight you in our skies. We will fight you until our last breath. And when you finally kill the last human, you will remember us, because we will make you pay for every inch of our world. The message traveled across space. Other alien civilizations heard it. They had watched the Varrics conquer for centuries. They had feared the Varrics Empire. Now they watched humans fight. They watched humans bleed. They watched humans refuse to die, and they began to wonder. If these humans could fight the Varrics, what else could they do? If these humans refused to surrender against impossible odds, what would they become if they survived? The first month of war ended. Earth was burning. Billions were dead. But humanity was still fighting. The galaxy watched. And for the first time in centuries, the Varrics Empire faced an enemy that would not submit. The invasion had begun. But so had humanity's rise. The galaxy would never be the same. The Varrics reinforcements arrived like a storm. Twice as many ships appeared in Earth's orbit. Admiral Kalroth was dead, killed when Sorahan's strike force destroyed his carrier. The new commander was worse. Admiral Vornak had orders from the Varrics Empress herself. No more mercy, no more prisoners, no more attempts to conquer. Earth would burn. Jiwan Kim watched the new fleet from her command bunker in Seoul. The bunker was 300 feet underground. It had to be. The surface was too dangerous now. Alien bombardment happened every hour. The sky was never clear anymore. Always smoke, always fire, always death. How many ships? She asked her tactical officer. 237 capital ships. Maybe 5,000 smaller vessels. Admiral Vornak brought everything. Jiwan nodded. Her face showed nothing. Inside, her heart screamed. How could they fight this? How could anyone fight this? But she pushed the fear down. Her people needed her to be strong. Send orders to all units. Pull back to fortified positions. Use the cities. Make them pay for every building. Every street. Every room, humanity changed its tactics. Open battles were suicide. The aliens had better weapons, better armor, better everything, but humans had home advantage. They knew every street, every sewer, every tunnel. They turned cities into mazes of death. Hyun Lee led a special forces team in the ruins of New York. His unit numbered 20 soldiers. They moved like ghosts through collapsed buildings. They set traps. They waited. A Varrics patrol entered their kill zone. 30 alien soldiers in powered armor. Each one could lift a car. Each one carried weapons that could punch through concrete. They looked invincible. Hyun gave the signal. Explosives buried under the street detonated. Half the patrol died instantly. The survivors staggered. Human soldiers emerged from hiding spots and fired, not at the aliens' armor, at their joints, at their helmets, at weak points Dr. Yuna Choi had identified from studying captured equipment. The fight lasted 3 minutes. All 30 aliens died. 2 humans were injured. 0 humans killed. Hyun's team vanished back into the rubble before reinforcements arrived. This happened 1,000 times a day. Across every continent, in every ruined city, humans ambushed, killed, and disappeared. The Varric soldiers began to fear entering human territory. They called Earth soldiers shadows. They said humans appeared from nowhere and killed without mercy. Meanwhile, Minho Park worked miracles in underground factories. His quantum disruptors were good, but he needed something better. He studied captured Varric's technology day and night. He barely ate. He barely slept. His assistants worried he would collapse. "I can sleep when we win," Minho told them, "or when I am dead. Either way, I will rest eventually." He discovered something important. Varric shields were strong against energy weapons and missiles, but they were weak against physical force at high speeds. He designed a new weapon, a railgun that fired metal rods at incredible velocity. Simple, brutal, effective. The first test destroyed a Varric's corvette in 1 shot. The rod went through the shields like they were paper. Production began immediately. Yuna Choi made her own discoveries. She examined dead Varric soldiers and found something surprising. The aliens were strong, but not as strong as they seemed. Much of their power came from their armor. The armor had a weak point in the environmental system. A small EMP charge could disable it. She designed EMP grenades, cheap, easy to make, devastating against Varric's armor. She sent the design to every human unit on Earth. Within a week, Varric's ground forces started suffering massive casualties. Admiral Vornak watched his casualty reports with growing fury. He was losing hundreds of soldiers every day. These primitives were supposed to be easy prey. Instead, they fought like trained predators. They showed no fear. They showed no mercy. They learned and adapted faster than any species he had ever faced. He decided to break human morale with a demonstration. He chose Mumbai. 10 million people still lived in the underground shelters beneath the city. Vornak ordered total destruction. His fleet gathered above the city and prepared to fire everything at once. Jiwon saw the fleet movements. She knew what they meant. She had one chance. One desperate, insane chance. "Contact Captain Han. I need her squadron. I need every ship we have that can still fly. And I need the new railguns." Sora Han had been waiting for this call. She had 40 pilots left. 40 out of the 200 she started with. Each pilot knew they were probably going to die. None of them hesitated. They launched from hidden bases. Small fighters modified with stolen alien engines, fast and nimble. Each one carried 2 of Minho's railgun rounds. They flew low using the curve of Earth to hide from enemy sensors. When they reached Mumbai, the Varric's fleet was concentrating its fire. Buildings evaporated. The ground turned to glass. 10 million people huddled in shelters and prayed. Sora's squadron struck from behind. 40 small ships against 200 massive warships. The odds were insane. But the humans had surprise and they had Minho's weapons. Railgun rounds tore through Varric's shields. Ships exploded. Sora targeted the flagship, the ship where Admiral Vornak commanded the fleet. Her targeting computer locked on. She fired both rounds. The first round punched through the shields. The second round hit the ship's reactor. There was a moment of silence. Then light. Terrible, beautiful light. The flagship exploded like a new sun. The explosion chain reacted to nearby ships. 15 Varric's capital ships died in seconds. The rest of the fleet scattered. They retreated. They ran. For the first time in Varric's history, a fleet ran from battle. Sora lost 32 of her 40 pilots, but Mumbai survived. 10 million people lived because 40 pilots decided to die. The galaxy watched this battle. An alien named Thane recorded everything. He was from a species that survived by staying neutral, by never taking sides, by never making enemies. But he could not look away from humanity's war. These strange, violent, brave creatures fascinated him. He broadcast Sora's attack across known space. Every civilization with a radio telescope saw it. They saw 40 human ships destroy 15 Varric's capital ships. They saw humans sacrifice themselves to save their people. Questions spread across the galaxy. Who were these humans? How were they fighting the Varric's empire? The Varric's had conquered for 300 years. They seemed unstoppable, but humans were stopping them. Back on Earth, Ji-won Kim promoted Sora Han to colonel. She gave medals to the families of the dead pilots. She cried for them in private. Then she planned the next operation. The war had been going for 3 months. Half of Earth's population was dead. Every major city was in ruins. But humans were still fighting. And now they were winning small victories. The Varix blockade had weaknesses. Human forces captured alien supply ships. They stole weapons. They reverse-engineered technology. Minho Park stood in a captured Varix cruiser. His team had killed the crew and taken the ship intact. He walked through the corridors and studied everything. Engines, weapons, life support, communications. We can fly this, he said. We can build these. We can make human versions. His assistant stared at him. Build starships? Humanity had never built a faster-than-light ship. It seemed impossible. 6 months ago, fighting the Varix seemed impossible, Minho said. We are humans. We do impossible things. Get to work. The tide was turning. Slowly. Painfully. But turning. Earth was battered but not broken. Humanity was bleeding but not dead. And somewhere in underground factories, the first human starship was being built. The Varix came to conquer. They thought it would take days. It had been months, and humans were done defending. Soon they would attack. The hunters would become the hunted. 6 months after the invasion began, humanity launched its first starship. The vessel was called Indomitable. It was ugly. Parts from human factories welded to parts from captured Varix ships. The design made Varix engineers look beautiful and human engineers look desperate. But it worked. More importantly, it was fast. Ji-won Kim stood on the bridge. She had been promoted to admiral, not because she wanted the rank, but because Earth needed leaders who refused to quit. She looked at her crew. Young faces, scared faces, determined faces. Are we ready? She asked the chief engineer. Gina Shin checked her displays. Gina could fix anything. She once repaired a fusion reactor while it was still running. She was the only reason Indomitable existed. The ship will fly. The weapons will fire. The shields will hold. Probably. Maybe. At least 50% chance of everything working. Ji-won smiled. 50% was better than the odds when the war started. Good enough. Set course for the Varix supply depot at Kepler Station. Maximum speed. The Indomitable jumped to faster than light speed. The first human ship to leave the solar system during wartime. The mission was simple. Hit the enemy where they lived. Make them hurt like they made Earth hurt. Kepler Station was 3 light-years from Earth, a massive depot where the Varix stored fuel, ammunition, and food for their invasion fleet. The station had minimal defenses. Why would it need defenses? No one had ever attacked Varix territory. No one was crazy enough until now. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light speed right on top of the station. Varix sensors screamed warnings. But it was too late. Human weapons fired. Railguns, missiles, quantum disruptors. Everything Minho Park had invented. Everything humanity had built. The station exploded in stages. First the fuel storage, then the ammunition depot, then the reactor core. The explosion was visible from 2 light-years away. Enough supplies to feed the invasion fleet for a year disappeared in 5 minutes. Ji-won broadcast a message on Varix military frequencies. She wanted them to hear her voice. You came to our home. You thought we would stay there and die. You were wrong. This is just the beginning. We will find every station, every depot, every ship, and we will destroy them all. The Indomitable jumped away before Varix reinforcements arrived. Gina Shin kept the engines running with spare parts and prayer. The crew cheered. They had struck the enemy. They had hit back. They had proven humans could fight in space. News of the attack reached the Varix homeworld. Empress Verica woke from her ceremonial sleep. She was ancient. She had ruled the Varix Empire for 200 years. She had overseen the conquest of dozens of worlds. She had never personally commanded military operations because it was beneath her dignity. But humans had attacked Varix territory. Her territory. This was unacceptable. Bring me everything we know about these humans, she ordered. I want to understand what we are fighting. Her advisors showed her the reports. The battles, the casualties, the tactics. Verica studied it all. Then she made her decision. They are predators, like us, but they are young predators, desperate predators. This makes them dangerous. We must crush them completely. No half measures. I will command the fleet personally. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity prepared for the final battle. The Varix blockade had weakened. Supplies were running low. Morale was breaking. Human forces saw their chance. General Daeho Yoon commanded ground forces. He was 60 years old. Too old for combat by normal standards. But nothing about this war was normal. He had fought the Varix in cities, mountains, deserts, and jungles. He learned how they thought. He learned how they moved. He learned how to kill them. He planned the liberation of Earth, every resistance cell, every hidden unit, every civilian with a weapon. They would all attack at once, simultaneously, globally. The Varix would not know where to defend. We get one chance, Daeho told his commanders. If we fail, there will not be enough of us left to try again, so we will not fail. The attack began at midnight Greenwich Mean Time. In London, human soldiers emerged from the underground tunnels. In Tokyo, resistance fighters attacked Varix garrisons from every direction. In New York, Hyun Lee led his special forces against the alien command center. The battle for New Beijing lasted 17 hours. 20,000 human soldiers against 15,000 Varix. The fighting was brutal. Close range, personal. Humans used every advantage. Knowledge of the terrain, surprise, rage, the need to protect their home. The Varix fought well. They were professional soldiers. Well-trained, well-equipped, but they were far from home. They were tired. They were scared, and they were losing. When the senior Varix officer realized he could not win, he did something unprecedented. He surrendered. He ordered his troops to lay down their weapons. 15,000 Varix soldiers became 15,000 prisoners of war. It was the first time in Varix history that an entire military unit surrendered. The news spread through the remaining Varix forces like poison. If New Beijing could surrender, why keep fighting? Within 1 week, Earth was free. The remaining Varix fleet retreated past Neptune. They regrouped in the outer solar system, waiting for Empress Verica and her reinforcements. Daeho Yoon stood in Tiananmen Square. The square was a crater now. Buildings around it were rubble, but a Chinese flag flew from a makeshift pole. A human flag, a symbol that Earth still existed. Survivors gathered, millions of them. They had lived underground for months. Now they emerged into sunlight. They cried. They hugged. They celebrated. Earth was theirs again, but the celebration did not last long. Ji-won Kim broadcast a message from the Indomitable. We have won the first battle. Earth is free, but the Varix Empire still exists. They have hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. They will come back. So we cannot stop now. We must take the fight to them. We must make sure they never threaten Earth again. The question became simple. How do you stop an empire? How do you fight an enemy that controls half the galaxy? Yuna Choi provided an answer. She had been studying Varix society. She learned something important. The Varix Empire ruled through fear. They conquered species and forced them to fight. Slave soldiers, slave workers. The Empire ran on slavery. We free the slaves, Yuna said at a military briefing. We hit Varix slave worlds. We break their chains. We arm them. We show them they can fight back. The Empire will collapse from inside. It was a dangerous strategy. It meant spreading human forces across multiple star systems. It meant making enemies of the Varix and potentially the slaves who were too afraid to rebel. But it was the only way to win. Ji-won approved the plan. She took Indomitable and 5 other newly built human ships. They jumped to the nearest slave world, a planet called Korath, where a species called the Velkin mined radioactive ore for Varix reactors. The human fleet arrived. They destroyed the Varix garrison in orbit. Then they landed. Sorahan personally met with Velkin leaders. She showed them the collar removal device Minho Park designed. She showed them human weapons. She made an offer. Join us and fight. Or take these ships and run far away. Your choice. But the Varix will never own you again. We promise you that. The Velkin chose to fight. They took human weapons and attacked their Varix overseers. The rebellion spread across the planet in days. Thane watched all of this from his observation station. He recorded everything. The human attacks. The slave liberations. The Varix confusion. He broadcast it across the galaxy. Civilizations that had never heard of humans suddenly knew their name. Species that suffered under Varix rule whispered to each other, maybe the Empire could fall. Maybe freedom was possible. Maybe these humans were the answer. Earth had survived. Now humanity was spreading. The galaxy would never be the same. The age of human expansion had begun. Earth's population was half what it used to be. 3 billion humans dead. Every survivor had lost someone. Parents, children, friends, entire families erased in the fires of war. The pain was everywhere. In every city, in every home, in every heart. But from that pain came purpose. Humanity reorganized. The Terran Coalition became the Terran Dominion, a government built for one goal: make sure Earth would never be helpless again. Every human would be trained. Every ship would be armed. Every world would be defended. Ji-won Kim became Supreme Commander of all Terran forces. She did not want the job. She wanted to retire, to grieve, to heal. But her people needed her, so she served. Her first order: build 50 warships. Her second order: train every human in basic combat. Her third order: find the Varrics homeworld and prepare for invasion. The galaxy watched with fear. These humans were not content to defend anymore. They were expanding. They were arming. They were becoming dangerous. But some civilizations saw opportunity. 3 slave species rebelled against Varrics' rule after seeing human broadcasts. They sent secret messages to Earth. They asked for help. They asked for weapons. They asked for hope. Humanity answered. Not with conquest. With liberation. Sorahan commanded a liberation fleet, 12 ships, 600 Marines. They arrived at a world called Makara. The Varrics used Makara as a breeding ground for slave soldiers. Millions of aliens born into chains, trained to fight, trained to die for the Empire. The human fleet attacked the orbital defense stations. The stations fell quickly. Varrics' defenses were designed to keep slaves in, not enemies out. Zora landed with her Marines at the main training facility. Thousands of young Mekaran slaves stared at the humans. They had never seen anyone fight the Varrics before. They did not understand what was happening. Zora removed her helmet. She wanted them to see her face. A human face. A face that looked as tired and scarred as theirs. The Varrics came to our world, she said through a translator. They killed billions of us. They thought we would break. We did not. We fought, we bled, we survived. Now we are here to give you the same choice. Fight for your freedom, or leave this place and never look back. But you will never wear chains again. That is our promise. The Makarans chose to fight. Humans taught them how to use captured Varrics weapons, how to fight as a unit, how to win. Within weeks, Makara was free. The freed slaves formed their own government, their own military, their own future. This happened again, and again, and again. Human liberation fleets visited 12 slave worlds in 6 months. Each time they offered the same choice: fight or flee, but be free. The Varrics Empire began to crack. Rebellions spread. Supply lines broke. Fleets had to be diverted to suppress uprisings instead of fighting humans. Empress Verica watched her empire crumble and felt something she had not felt in 2 centuries. Fear. She called her military council. Admiral Torin was her best remaining commander. Young, ambitious, ruthless. The humans are destroying us from within, Verica said. They do not just fight our soldiers. They turn our slaves against us. What do we do? Torin studied the star maps. Human ships were everywhere now. Raiding, liberating, attacking. They moved like ghosts, never staying in one place. Always striking where the Varrics were weak. We cannot fight them everywhere, Torin said. We must force them to fight us in one place. A place where we have overwhelming strength. We must threaten something they cannot ignore. Like what? Earth. We gather everything. Every ship. Every soldier. We attack Earth again. If humans come to defend it, we destroy them. If they do not come, we destroy their homeworld. Either way, we win. Verica smiled. It was a terrible smile. Cold and cruel. Gather the fleets. All of them. We end this war. Meanwhile, Minho Park made a breakthrough. He found something in a captured Varrics database, coordinates, navigation data. The location of every major Varrics military installation, including Varrics R Prime, the Varrics homeworld. He brought the data to Ji-won Kim. She studied it in silence for a long time. Then she called a meeting of the Terran Council. The council chamber was rebuilt from the ruins of Seoul. 50 leaders from every remaining nation. They argued constantly. About strategy, about resources, about the future. But they all agreed on one thing: trust Ji-won Kim. We have the location of Varrics R Prime, Ji-won announced. I want to take our entire fleet and attack it. The room exploded in argument. Some called it suicide. Some called it genius. Some called it insane. Boranam was humanity's first interstellar ambassador. She had been meeting with neutral alien civilizations, trying to build alliances, trying to make friends. She spoke up. If we attack their homeworld, we become the aggressors. We become the invaders. The galaxy will fear us. They will hate us. We will lose any chance at peace. Jiwan listened. She respected Bora, but she disagreed. The Variks will never stop, Jiwan said quietly. They will rebuild. They will return. Our children will fight this war. Our grandchildren will fight this war, unless we end it now. Completely, permanently. I am not asking for genocide. I'm asking for victory. One final battle. After that peace, the council voted. 26 in favor. 24 against. The mission was approved by the smallest possible margin. Jiwan took 73 ships. Every warship humanity had built. She left Earth defended by orbital platforms and ground forces. It was a risk. If the Variks attacked while she was gone, Earth would fall. But if she succeeded, the war would end. The fleet gathered near Mars. Thousands of crew members, soldiers, engineers, pilots. Everyone who could fight came. Some brought family photos. Some brought religious symbols. Some brought letters to be delivered if they died. Taiyang Quan commanded the Second Fleet. His ships were fast attack vessels, built for hit-and-run missions. He found Jiwan in her quarters the night before departure. Do you think we can win? He asked. Jiwan looked at Earth through the viewport. Beautiful and scarred? They're home. I think we have no choice but to try. An AI called the Oracle had been discovered in an ancient derelict ship. No one knew who built it. It was more advanced than any human or Variks computer. Jiwan brought it online and asked a question. What are our chances of success? The Oracle calculated for exactly 3 seconds, 3%. You will lose 70% of your fleet. Variks Prime has 3,000 defense platforms. The Guardian fleet numbers 500 ships. You have 73 ships and inferior technology. The probability of victory is statistically insignificant. Jiwan smiled. A real smile, 3%. That is 3% better than when the Variks first came to Earth. We will take those odds. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. 73 ships carrying the future of humanity. They were going into the heart of enemy territory. They were attacking the most defended world in the galaxy. They were outnumbered 40-1, but they were humans. And humans had learned something important during the war. When you have nothing left to lose, you can do impossible things. The journey to Variks Prime would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare. 2 weeks to train. 2 weeks to accept that most of them would die. Jiwan addressed the fleet every day. Short messages. Simple words. Reminders of why they fought. For Earth, for humanity, for the future. On the 13th day, they arrived at the edge of the Variksar system. Yunji Park was Jiwan's daughter. She commanded a stealth frigate called Shadow. She scouted ahead. What she found terrified her. The Guardian fleet was exactly where the Oracle predicted. 500 massive warships, each one bigger than the biggest human vessel. The orbital platforms glowed with power. Weapons that could crack planets. Yunji sent her report back to her mother. She expected orders to retreat, to find another way, to survive. Instead, Jiwan's reply was simple. All ships, battle formation, prepare to attack. If we die today, we die as humans, free, defiant, and we will take as many of them with us as we can. The human fleet moved forward, toward the enemy, toward impossible odds, toward history. Variks Prime was beautiful. 3 moons hung in a purple sky, oceans that shimmered silver, cities that stretched across continents. This was the heart of the Empire, the world that had sent armies to conquer dozens of civilizations, the world that tried to destroy Earth. Now 73 human ships hung at the edge of the system, small, battered, outnumbered, but ready. Jiwan Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable. She could see the Guardian fleet on her displays. 500 Variks warships, more firepower than had ever been assembled in one place. Enough to sterilize a planet. Commander Park, report, she said calmly. Yunji Park's stealth frigate had been mapping the enemy positions for hours. Her voice came through the communication system. Guardian fleet is in standard defensive formation. 3 orbital platforms guard the northern approach. Moon bases are at full alert. They know we are here, Mother. They are waiting. Jiwan nodded. Of course they were waiting. The Variks were not stupid. They detected the human fleet the moment it entered the system. But they made a mistake. They thought humans would attack directly. The Variks believed in honor. In facing your enemy head-on, humans believed in winning. Captain Han began the feint. Sora Han commanded 12 fighter squadrons. 144 small ships against an armada. She smiled as she led them forward. This was what she lived for. The impossible fight, the moment where skill and courage mattered more than numbers. Her fighters screamed toward the northern moon base. The Guardian fleet moved to intercept, exactly as planned. While they focused on the fighters, the main human fleet moved toward the southern approach. The less defended side, Gina Shin, worked frantically in the engine room. She was pushing the Indomitable beyond its design limits. The ship groaned. Metal stressed. Systems overheated. But they needed every bit of speed. Engines at 130%, she reported. We can hold this for maybe 10 minutes before something explodes. 10 minutes is enough, Jiwan replied. The human fleet struck like lightning. Minho's quantum missiles phased through Varik shields. Taeyanquan's fast attack ships hit and retreated before the enemy could respond. Railguns fired constantly. The southern defense platforms exploded one by one. The Guardian fleet turned. Tried to reposition, but they were massive ships. Slow. Built for power, not speed. The humans danced around them. Every second counted. Every shot had to matter. On the surface of Varixar Prime, Empress Verica watched from her palace. She saw human ships tearing through her defenses, saw her Guardian fleet struggling to respond, felt something she thought she had lost. Respect for an enemy. These humans were magnificent warriors. In another time, she would have been proud to face them. But this was not another time. This was her world. Her empire. She would not let it fall. Activate the planetary defense grid. All batteries. Fire everything. Weapons built into the planet itself came online. Thousands of cannons, missile silos, energy projectors. They fired at the human fleet. Space filled with light and death. Human ships died. The cruiser Melbourne exploded. The destroyer Seoul burned. The carrier Tokyo broke in half. Hundreds died in seconds. The survivors pushed forward. Jiwan felt each loss like a knife in her heart. Those were her people. Her responsibility. But she could not stop. Could not retreat. They were committed now. Win or die. All ships target the Palace District. Hyun Lee, begin the ground assault. Hyun Lee and 200 Marines launched from the Indomitable in drop pods. They fell through fire, through explosions, through hell itself. Half the pods were destroyed before reaching the surface. The rest crashed into the palace grounds. Marines emerged from smoking craters. They were battered. Some were injured. All were furious. They had traveled across the galaxy to be here. They were not leaving without Verica. The palace guards were the elite. The best warriors the Variks had. They fought hard. But humans fought harder. Every Marine had lost someone to the Variks invasion. Every Marine remembered Earth burning. This was personal. Hyun led his team through marble halls, past treasures from conquered worlds, past monuments to Variks' glory. They kicked down doors. They threw grenades. They showed no mercy because they had received none. They found Verica in her throne room. She stood alone, her guards dead around her. She held a plasma blade, ancient, ceremonial, still deadly. So, she said in perfect English, the prey comes to kill the hunter. Fitting. Hyun aimed his rifle at her chest. You are under arrest. Surrender and you live. Resist and you die. Choose quickly, Verica laughed. A bitter sound. I have ruled for 200 years. I have conquered 47 worlds. I will not surrender to children, she charged. Fast for someone so old. The plasma blade swung at Hyun's head. He ducked, his rifle fired. The shot hit her shoulder. She dropped the blade. Verica fell to her knees. Blood ran down her arm. She looked up at Hyun with hatred and something else, curiosity. Why not kill me? I would kill you without hesitation. Because we are not like you, Hyun said. Bind her wounds. Prepare her for transport. Above the planet, the battle raged. The human fleet was down to 40 ships. The Guardian fleet was down to 200. But the humans had achieved their objective. They had landed troops. They had captured the Empress. Jiwan opened a channel to every Varik ship, every military installation, every command center. This is Admiral Ji-won Kim of the Terran Dominion. Your Empress is in our custody. She is alive. She will remain alive if you stand down immediately, continue fighting, and she dies. You have 5 minutes to decide. The Varix fleet hesitated. Their culture demanded honor. Demanded they fight to the last ship. But their culture also demanded absolute loyalty to the Empress. If she died because they fought, they would be responsible. The senior admiral, a grizzled warrior named Corvin, made a decision that would change history. He opened a channel back to G1. If we surrender, what happens to us? You will be treated according to the laws of war. No torture, no executions, fair trials for war crimes, and your empire will be dissolved. All slave species will be freed. That is non-negotiable, Corvin considered. He had fought humans for a year. He knew they meant what they said. When they promised mercy, they gave it. When they promised death, they delivered it. They were honest enemies. The Guardian fleet surrenders. Stand by for formal cessation of hostilities. Weapons powered down across the system. Shields dropped. The battle ended. Not with explosions, but with silence. A terrible, beautiful silence. Ji-won collapsed into her command chair. Her hands shook. She had gambled everything. The lives of her crew. The future of humanity. And she had won. Gina Shin's voice came over the speaker. She sounded exhausted. Admiral, the engines are about to explode. Should I shut them down? Ji-won laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in a year. Yes, Gina, shut down the engines. Shut down everything. We are done fighting for today. Across the galaxy, Thane broadcast the news. The Varix Empire had fallen to humans. A species no one had heard of 2 years ago. A species that should have been exterminated. Instead, they stood victorious on the Varix homeworld itself. Civilizations watched the broadcast in shock. Some in fear, some in hope, some in disbelief. But all of them understood one thing. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. Ji-won looked at Earth through the Indomitable's viewport. So far away, but safe now. Finally safe. She thought about her daughter Yoonji, who survived the battle. About Sora Han, who lost half her pilots. About every human who fought and died to reach this moment. Send a message to Earth, she told her communications officer. Tell them it is over. Tell them we won. Tell them to come home. The war was over. But humanity's story was just beginning. The Treaty of Terra was signed on a spring day in New Seoul. Representatives from 20 species gathered in a building rebuilt from rubble. Outside, cherry blossoms bloomed. Inside, history changed. Empress Verica sat at the table. Bound by honor and defeat. She was old now, tired, her empire was gone. 300 years of conquest erased in 2 years of war. She picked up the pen with shaking hands. Ji-won Kim sat across from her. Admiral no more. Just a woman who wanted to go home. But she stayed because her people needed her. One last time. The Varix Empire is dissolved. Ji-won read from the treaty. All slave species are granted immediate freedom. All conquered territories will form their own governments. Varix military forces will be reduced to defensive levels only. These terms are final and absolute, Verica signed. Her hand left a mark that ended an empire. She looked up at Ji-won. You could have taken everything. You could have enslaved us. Why did you not? Ji-won met her gaze. Because that would make us like you. We fought for freedom, not conquest. That is the difference between us. The treaty was done. Cameras broadcast the moment across the galaxy. Billions watched. Billions understood. Humanity had won the war. But they chose peace over revenge, mercy over massacre. Within weeks, humanity created the Free Systems Alliance. An open coalition. Any species could join. The only requirement was simple. Respect freedom. Respect life. Defend those who cannot defend themselves. 23 species applied for membership in the first month. Species that had suffered under Varix rule. Species that had hidden in fear. Species that saw in humanity something they never expected. Hope. Bora Nam became Secretary General of the Galactic Congress. The first human to hold the position. She stood before representatives from over 100 civilizations and spoke. We are all children of the stars. We are all seeking the same things, safety, prosperity, a future for our children. Humanity asks nothing but friendship. We offer our strength to protect the weak, our technology to help the needy, our courage to face the darkness. Together we are stronger. The speech was translated into dozens of languages. It reached every corner of known space. Some civilizations rejoiced, others remained cautious. A few were actively afraid, because humanity's reputation was complicated. Yes, they freed slaves. Yes, they chose peace. But they also destroyed the most powerful empire in the galaxy in less than 2 years. They showed a capacity for violence that shocked even warrior species. A species called the Horoth refused to join the alliance. They sealed their borders. They built weapons. They prepared for the day humans would come to conquer them. No amount of diplomacy could convince them that humans meant peace. Meanwhile, fragments of the Varix military refused to surrender. Warlords claimed parts of the old empire. One warlord, Krenth, was particularly dangerous. He commanded 300 ships and controlled 5 star systems. He swore to restore the empire or die trying. Krenth attacked Alliance outposts. He bombed civilian stations. He executed prisoners. He wanted to make humanity look weak, to prove that their peace was temporary, that violence would always win. The Alliance debated. Some wanted total war, crush Krenth completely. Others wanted negotiation, find a peaceful solution. The debate threatened to tear apart the new government. Ji-won Kim had retired after the treaty. She lived quietly on Mars, tended a garden, tried to forget the war. But when Krenth killed 12,000 civilians in an orbital strike, she knew retirement was over. She accepted command of a joint human-alien fleet. 50 ships. 10 different species serving together. It was a test. Could the alliance actually work? Could former enemies fight side by side? They hunted Krenth for 3 months, across a dozen systems, through asteroid fields and nebulas. He was clever, always moving, always one step ahead. But Ji-won was patient. She had learned patience during the war. Finally, they cornered him at a place called Neutron Reach, a nebula filled with radiation and collapsed stars. Dangerous space, perfect for an ambush. Krenth's fleet waited in the clouds. 300 ships against 50. The Oracle calculated the odds. 70% chance of victory. 30% chance of losing half the fleet. Ji-won's officers expected her to attack immediately. She had the advantage. She had surprise. Instead, she opened a communication channel to Krenth. This is Admiral Ji-won Kim. You are surrounded. Your fleet is outmatched. I'm offering you a choice. Surrender and face trial. Or fight and die. You have 1 hour. Her officers were shocked. Give him time? Let him prepare? It made no tactical sense. But Ji-won was not thinking tactically. She was thinking about the future. About what kind of civilization humanity wanted to be. Krenth received the message on his flagship. He stood on the bridge surrounded by loyal warriors. All of them expected to die today. They had accepted it. They were ready, but Krenth looked at his crew. Young soldiers, old veterans, people with families, people with dreams. He had led them to war because he believed in the Empire, but the Empire was dead. What was he fighting for now? Pride, revenge? He thought about Empress Verica. She had surrendered when surrender seemed impossible. She had chosen life over honor. If the Empress could bend, could he? 57 minutes into the hour, Krenth opened a channel back to Ji-won. What guarantee do we have of fair treatment? My word, and the laws we have established. No torture. No execution without trial. If you committed war crimes, you will be judged. But you will be judged fairly. Krenth closed his eyes. Then he gave the order that ended his rebellion. All ships power down weapons. Prepare to surrender. The entire fleet surrendered without firing a shot. Not because they were cowards. Because they were given a choice. Because humanity showed them there was a path besides death. The galaxy watched this too. They saw humanity with overwhelming force choose mercy. They saw enemies become prisoners instead of corpses. They saw the kind of civilization humanity was building. Min Seo-young was a senator from Earth. She had fought for peaceful expansion since the treaty. Now she stood before the Galactic Congress with a proposal. The Galactic Charter of Rights. A document guaranteeing freedom and safety for all species. The charter was debated for weeks. Some species loved it. Others feared it gave too much power to central authority. But eventually it passed, unanimously. Every species in the Congress voted yes. For the first time in galactic history, civilizations agreed on basic rights. Freedom of movement, freedom of thought, protection from slavery, protection from genocide. Simple things. But revolutionary Earth became more than a world. It became a symbol. The planet that refused to die. The species that chose building over destroying. New Seoul hosted embassies from 70 species. Human culture spread, music, art, stories, languages. But not everyone was happy. The Horath sealed their borders tighter. 3 other isolationist species followed their example. They believed humanity was dangerous, that the peace would not last, that eventually humans would show their true nature. A mysterious figure called the Collector approached Boranam in private. The Collector was an information broker. Ancient, well-connected, dangerous. "You have made enemies," the Collector said. "Powerful ones. They exist in deep space. They have watched civilizations rise and fall for millennia. They see your rapid expansion, your military strength, your influence. They are concerned. Concerned or threatened?" Bor asked. "Both. Be careful, human. You have survived the predators. But there are things in the dark older than the Variks, stranger than the Variks, and they are watching you." The Collector vanished. Bora told no one about the conversation. She did not want to spread fear. But she remembered the warning, and she made sure Earth kept building ships, kept training soldiers, kept watching the stars because humanity had learned a lesson. Peace was worth fighting for, but peace required strength. Weakness invited attack. Strength invited respect. The war with the Variks was over, but humanity's journey was not. They were no longer victims, no longer prey. They were guardians now, protectors of the free, defenders of the weak, and if darkness came again, they would be ready. The galaxy watched Earth, some with hope, some with fear, all with respect. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. 50 years passed, 50 years of peace, 50 years of growth, 50 years of change. Earth was not the wounded world anymore. It had healed. Cities rose from ruins. Forests grew where battlefields once bled. The scars remained, but life continued. Jiwon Kim was 97 years old. She lived in a quiet house on Mars, the same house where she had tried to retire before Krenth's rebellion. This time no one called her back to service. The wars were over. Her duty was done. She sat in her garden and wrote her memoirs. Not for glory, not for fame, but so future generations would remember, would understand the cost of peace, would know that freedom was never free. Her daughter Yoonji visited often. Yoonji had children now, grandchildren for Jiwon. They played in the garden, human children and Varik's children, playing together, laughing together, friends. The galaxy had changed. The Free Systems Alliance included 142 species now. New Seoul was the diplomatic capital of known space. The Galactic Congress met there monthly. Decisions that affected trillions of lives were made in buildings humans built. Human influence spread in ways no one expected. Not through conquest, through culture. Human music played in alien cities. Human stories were translated into hundreds of languages. Human philosophy about freedom and dignity became universal values. Young humans served throughout the galaxy. As diplomats, as teachers, as engineers, as peacekeepers. They carried with them the memory of invasion, the knowledge of what it meant to almost lose everything. It made them compassionate. It made them strong. The Varik species had transformed. No longer warriors. No longer conquerors. They became artists, scientists, and builders. The guilt of their empire's crimes weighed on them. They spent decades making amends. Varn had been a young Variks officer during the invasion. He defected to humanity during the war. Now he was old, a teacher of history. He traveled to Earth with a delegation. They came to the memorial in London. The memorial was massive, a wall that stretched for miles. Every name of every human who died in the invasion was carved into stone. 3 billion names, 3 billion lives, 3 billion stories ended. Varn stood before the wall with his delegation. Human survivors watched them, some with anger, some with curiosity, all with pain that time had not erased. Varn spoke in English. His voice shook. "We come to apologize. Words cannot undo what we did, cannot bring back the dead, cannot heal the wounds. But we want you to know, we remember. We teach our children what we did. We teach them never to forget, never to repeat. We are sorry. We will always be sorry." Humans and Varik stood together in silence. Then they planted trees. 1 tree for each species lost in all the wars. Human trees, Varik's trees, trees from worlds freed from slavery. The garden would grow for centuries. A living monument to peace and memory. Meanwhile, exploration continued. Ji-Ho Park commanded the starship Curiosity. He was Min-Ho Park's grandson. The scientist blood ran strong. Ji-Ho led expeditions into uncharted space, making first contact with isolated civilizations, mapping new systems, seeking knowledge. His crew was mixed species. Humans worked beside Variks. Former slaves worked beside former masters. They proved every day that the past could be overcome, that different species could build something together. Then Ji-Ho found something that changed everything. A wormhole, stable, massive, leading to another galaxy. A galaxy humans had never seen. Where civilizations unknown existed. Where new wonders and new dangers waited. The discovery sparked debate across the Alliance. Should they explore it? Should they leave it alone? Was humanity ready for another galaxy? Had they learned enough from their wars? The Galactic Congress debated for months. Some species wanted aggressive exploration. Others wanted caution. Others wanted to seal the wormhole and forget it existed. A group called the Ancients emerged from deep space. They were old. Older than any civilization in known space. They had existed for thousands of years. They had watched empires rise and fall. They stayed hidden because they did not interfere. Until now, they came to Earth not with weapons, with questions. They wanted to understand humanity, wanted to know why these strange beings chose mercy over revenge, why they built instead of destroyed, why they were different. Ji-Won Kim received them in her garden on Mars. She was the last surviving leader from the invasion, the last voice of that terrible time. The Ancients materialized before her, beings of light and energy. Ancient beyond measure. Why did you choose peace? They asked. Their voices echoed in her mind. You had the power to conquer, to rule, to take revenge. Most species choose that path. Why did you not? Ji-Won looked at her garden, at the flowers she had planted, at the grandchildren playing, at the peace she had fought so hard to create. Because we remember what it felt like to be prey, she said simply. We remember looking at the sky and seeing death. We remember helplessness, fear, loss. When we found a galaxy full of other beings, we could not inflict that on others. We chose to protect instead of dominate, because we remember, and we never want anyone to feel what we felt. The Ancients were silent for a long time. Then they spoke again. We have watched countless civilizations. Most become tyrants when they gain power. You became guardians. You are unique, precious. The galaxy is better because you exist. Remember this when darkness comes again. Because it will come. It always does. They vanished. Ji-Won never saw them again. But their words stayed with her. Darkness would come. Humanity would face new threats, new challenges, but they would be ready. The Galactic Congress made its decision about the wormhole. They would explore it, but carefully, with representatives from 50 species, with weapons but also with open hands, ready for war, hoping for peace. Ji-Ho Park volunteered to lead the expedition. His ship Curiosity would be first through the wormhole. He stood on the bridge and looked at his crew. Humans and aliens, veterans and youngsters, scientists and soldiers. We go into the unknown, he said. We might find friends. We might find enemies. Whatever we find, we represent the Free Systems Alliance. We represent hope. We represent the belief that different beings can live together in peace. If we meet hostiles, we defend ourselves. If we meet friends, we welcome them. If we meet nothing, we explore and learn. Are you ready? The crew answered as one. Ready. The Curiosity entered the wormhole. Behind them, the Alliance watched and waited. Before them, another galaxy beckoned. Unknown, mysterious, full of possibility. Ji-Ho sent one message back before the wormhole made communication impossible. We are the Free Systems Alliance. We come in peace. We seek knowledge and friendship. If you are peaceful, we welcome you. If you threaten the innocent, you will find we also come prepared for war. This is our promise. This is our way. On Mars, Ji-Won Kim felt the end approaching. She was old, tired, ready to rest. She called Yoonji to her bedside. Tell them I lived to see peace, Ji-Won whispered. Tell them the war was worth it. Tell them never to forget, but also never to hate. Promise me, Yoonji held her mother's hand. Tears ran down her face. I promise, Mother. We will remember. We will honor you. We will protect what you built, Ji-Won smiled. Then she closed her eyes for the last time. Her funeral was attended by leaders from every Alliance species. They came to honor the woman who taught the galaxy that strength without compassion was meaningless. That victory without mercy was hollow, that the strongest warriors could become the greatest peacekeepers. Her gravestone was simple. It read, "She stood for Earth. In standing for Earth, she stood for all." The story of Earth's invasion became legend. Children across the galaxy learned about the humans who refused to surrender, who turned defense into liberation, who proved that compassion and strength could coexist. In New Sol, a human child and a Varix child played in a park. Their parents watched from a bench. Different species, different histories, but the same hopes, the same dreams, the same future. Above them, ships from dozens of worlds entered and left Earth's orbit, not as invaders, as friends, as partners, as family. The galaxy no longer feared humanity. It hoped with them. It dreamed with them. It built with them. Because humanity had proven something that seemed impossible, that survivors of trauma could heal, that warriors could choose peace, that the fiercest fighters could become the gentlest protectors. They invaded Earth thinking they would find easy prey. Instead, they awakened something ancient in the human spirit. Not rage, but resolve. Not vengeance, but justice. Not cruelty, but compassion backed by unbreakable will. The galaxy watched Earth burn. Then the galaxy watched Earth rise. And now the galaxy knows. Humanity is not to be feared for what it can destroy. Humanity is to be respected for what it will protect. And that makes all the difference. The invasion ended. The legend began. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. Not through conquest. Through courage. Not through fear. Through hope. Not through domination. Through dedication to something greater than themselves. The future stretched before them. Unknown, challenging, full of wonder and danger. But humanity would face it the way they faced everything, together, with allies at their side, with strength in their hearts, with mercy in their souls. They came to destroy us. They made us stronger. They tried to enslave us. They taught us the value of freedom. They wanted to end humanity. They gave humanity purpose. The galaxy trembles, not in fear,